Clarity is nearly out of time, and today we're going to take a real hard look at where we go from here. We'll have a special guest on it, so you guys don't want to miss this one. I do want to thank our sponsor today before we do get started, and that, of course, is iTrust Capital. This is where you guys can get into your own crypto IRA and make your retirement funds work for you. That's right. So what you can do is pretty much get anything out there in terms of digital assets, for the most part, put that into a crypto IRA. You can also use gold and silver. All you have to do is go in, set up your own account, sign up. It's very easy to do if you don't have an IRA. If you have one, you can also move it over. Very easy to fund this account. You can cash transfer or do a rollover. And then, of course, you can go buy and sell 24/7. So it's very, very flexible. You guys, of course, can use our link down below. It's going to give you an additional $100 funding reward just to get started on your own crypto IRA over at iTrust. So let's go over first, before we bring on Anna Minehardt, who is the policy guy over at Hyperliquid. I want to start with this clip from Cody Carbone talking about where we are today. Take a look.
We won't have enough time for it to go to the House. The House is already out of session. I've changed my expectations of what success is over the next week. We need to start to have some of the procedural votes. A motion to proceed vote that needs to happen. It needs to get on the Senate calendar first. Then there's a cloture vote. There's going to be amendments. You need at least like 30 hours of debate before you can go into end debate. Can we then tee ourselves up where the first week they're back in September, all they need is just that one passage vote? Then all the House needs is that one passage vote, and it can move very, very quickly to the president's desk. That is success right now. As I mentioned, the House is already gone, so it's not going to pass the House anyway until September when they get back. To do that, we need to get the ethics deal. You have 53 Republicans. You need 60 votes. That's at least 2 Republicans that are likely a no. Mitch McConnell, we don't know where he is. That means then you have to get at least 10 Democrats. You have to begin voting next week on some of these procedural votes, because if you do not begin voting next week, you likely lose all chance that this bill is going to move forward in the fall. And if we were talking a week from today and we didn't begin that process, I would say this bill likely doesn't have a chance to move forward this year.
All right, so what you're hearing there is 2 different angles and strategies that could still possibly play into it. So I want to bring on Adam Minehardt as Chief Policy Officer over at Hyperliquid. How are you, Adam? Nice to have you back.
Very good. Good to see you again, Paul.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit about where we are right now, because you obviously heard what Cody said there. And his point is it's very light in the fact that we would get anything done this week. If anything, it's going to be just a handful of maintenance votes to try to get in play for September. How likely is that for September?
Yep. I do think it's still an open question of whether or not we see a vote this week on the cloture vote to proceed. I think that would be a really, really important vote to have, pass or fail. I think getting something on record now is critical. And we saw it with Genius. Genius failed initially on the cloture vote for a motion to proceed, and that caused people to come back to the table. It's very hard to understand what the political ramifications of that vote will be. We can game theory it right now that it's good for Dems to vote no against the sitting president and the crypto ethics issue. We can say it's a good vote for them to have going into midterms. We won't know until they take the vote. So I think that's why it's important to get that vote done. With regard to September, we've had a lot of supposed deadlines along the way. And I think we've discussed this when I was on before. Deadlines are a very important forcing mechanism in politics. We have a House, a Senate, and an administration. We have a very active media. The deadlines force people's attention to get something done. We're at another deadline now before the August recess. I believe September, there is the potential for there to be floor time in September to get this thing moving again. There's obviously a lot of power behind this bill, both on the Hill and off the Hill. So I say we have the month of September to do it as well.
All right, so you're not totally out of the possibility of this still making it through. When you look at this right now, before I play another clip that is kind of interesting, because many people look at this as a different strategy, but when you look at whether you look at the Republicans or the Democrats right now, where do you think the sticking point? Is it still ethics, or is this more about the issue of the banks still pushing for stablecoin yield?
Ethics. I mean, my view is that every day we get closer to that midterm election, it's more about politics and less about policy. I think right now, on the precipice of the August recess, we are beginning the heavy political season where everyone is running campaigns. And right now, I think this has shifted to a political messaging bill. Yeah. This is really about your view about the Trump's family's activities in crypto. Is it fair? No. There's a lot of very, very good policy in that bill. I would argue that this bill is more Democratic than Republican at this point. So I think on policy, it's a good bill. But the politics right now have become very, very muddled. So I'll pause there.
Well, I think what we have seen over talking to senators on both sides of the aisle for quite some time is that you have the Republicans positioning here. You also have the Democrats positioning here, obviously within the ethics framework. And this may be just in time to use this as the caveat and possibly the carrot to push into midterms as a way to beat the Republicans with all of what's been going on with the Trump administration around this ethics situation. So I agree with you. It's become very political.
And the ad that Peggy Flanagan ran against Angie Craig in the Democratic primary for the Minnesota Senate seat to replace Amy Klobuchar is really important. I don't think it's gotten a ton of airtime, but she basically did just what you were saying.
Yep.
She is saying a vote for this bill by Democrats is a vote to support the Trump White House and their crypto ambitions. So they're really, this is the first time you're really seeing that message be tested really on the national stage. I think it's something we're all really worried about, that it gets hyper political. And I think that's where we are. We're like right at the edge of that.
Well, they're definitely going to have to fight this out with the ethics side, because you have the Trump administration, the White House, really pushing to try to agree with the ethics side. So it may be one of those things where they kind of put their hands up and say, hey, the Democrats got what they wanted and still didn't vote on this. So it was really just take me down individually, which in reality, this is kind of what we're facing right now. I want to play a clip for you from Chris Giancarlo, the former CFTC chair. And he mentions a very interesting idea here, and I want to get your opinion on it. Take a look.
I worry that clarity doesn't pass. Now, what I'd say to the industry is, perhaps it's time to stop making such a big deal out of clarity.
Maybe there's a little bit of an own goal from the industry right now in the way that we talk about clarity, which you said.
Totally.
If we're out on the streets,
clarity doesn't pass, the industry's going to have to say, well, we told you all that it had to be passed, and now we're still telling you keep investing, keep building. We need to back off and just simply say it's going to be what it's going to be.
So what do you think? Do you think this is a situation where the industry just needs to back down now?
I wouldn't say back down. I think there's a lot of important things in that bill that are both good for industry and good for consumers, that it sets up a real framework. But I do agree with Chris on his broader point that I think we have made this bill the be-all, end-all. And I think the industry has operated without a framework since the beginning, really, of crypto globally. And it can continue to operate without clarity. And our regulators are very well positioned to deliver on a lot of the things within clarity. Would we prefer clarity to codify those in U.S. law so it makes it harder to overturn? 100%. But I think Chris's point is spot on. I think we've put a lot of weight behind this bill. So now that if it fails, it feels like the industry has failed. So there's a lot of ego involved, but there isn't everything. We just don't talk about it.
Well, one thing that you said, I think that is very important here, and that is the difference in the current environment. When you go back and look at pre-Trump, the current environment at the SEC was as toxic as you could ever imagine for any kind of innovation. So where we are right now with the SEC and the CFTC, for that matter, is a much more understanding regulator that is going to get behind this. And it kind of reframes the entire situation, because you could argue now as a Democrat that, hey, we're not really in charge of trying to get this across the line. We really just want to beat up on President Trump. It's the SEC and the CFTC that's going to protect consumers by getting this in the right regulatory framework. So that may be an interesting point right now. I was looking at this tweet right here. Bernstein coming in and saying that Clarity Act failure would likely trigger a crypto sell-off, but argues that the SEC and to my point, would respond by accelerating the rulemaking. I don't know. Do you think there would be a sell-off? I'm not sure if this isn't already priced in.
I have a feeling it's already priced in. I mean, people are following the prediction markets on this. It's vacillated pretty significantly. So I think there's a lot of hesitation to be locked in that this thing's going to pass. And I think they're right. I think what we're talking about is spot on. These agencies have a lot of power under their existing statutory authorities to make a lot of changes. They've rightfully held off while clarity is being negotiated. But if it looks like we're going to hit a spot where it's not, I think they're going to go all in.
I want to go a different angle here because Anthony Scaramucci looked at this with maybe a little bit of a different lens, and he said it was in reference to that the Republicans would be maybe at blame for this if they failed to put it on the floor. When you look at the current situation, because I mean it's really been a balanced issue where Republicans have been pushing. The Democrats have been saying, hey, we're defending for the American people and what's right. But now you have the Republicans saying, or potentially in a position where they don't get it on the floor, did they actually fail it? So how would you land here? Would you look at this at still the Democrats pushing back too hard, or the Republicans just not going ahead and trying to get this underway?
I'd give you a third one. I think this bank issue, I think the bank issue with stablecoins is starting to give a lot of hesitation to 3 or 4 Republicans who may be in that no camp. And then I think you have Tillis, Cornyn, and Cassidy, 3 Republican members that lost their primaries that also are kind of in this purgatory. So if you're John Thune and you're thinking, and Tim Scott, who's not only the Senate banking chair, but also the head of the NRSC, the campaign arm for the Senate, how can this be a vote against Democrats if you have 5, 6, or 7 Republicans voting no on it? I think that muddles the message. So to me, that's the issue here. If you knew you were just going to lose 1 or 2, say Rand Paul and Josh Hawley, and the Democrats are going to take it down, fine. But if it's going to be 5, 6, or 7, that's a real messaging problem for Republicans to basically put this solely on Democrats. So I think Democrats here are in a position of strength. They got very lucky that yield issue with the banks took up so much time on the clock. You probably had 4 months there where Democrats could not be blamed. It was a disagreement over policy where it really wasn't political. It was industry versus industry. So I think Dems really got lucky here.
And you look at Cynthia Lummis, I mean, she's kind of at a frustration level right here. She says, hey, it's here, we are here. But Republicans are doing everything we can to get the bill on the floor and pass. I do agree this bill is fully baked, very reflective of a bipartisan negotiation, and we're ready and willing to get this across the line. If we're only needing, because it sounds to me like most of the ethics concerns have been presented or at least earmarked, what would hold Thune from being able to go ahead and put this up for a vote? I
think if it fails, and it fails with 5, 6, 7 Republicans voting no, I believe it's that issue. But if I was him, I would still put it up for a vote. I think there's more value to the Republican Party of having Dems have to take this vote, regardless if you lose 3, 4, 5, 6 Republicans. The value to me, even if it goes down, is really that this could be the forcing mechanism to get an agreement in September. You've been following this so close, and you know the ups and downs with this process. But a no vote puts you into a defensive posture. It's just not quite clear that this couldn't splash back up on Dems.
Okay, so you believe that the reason he wouldn't potentially could even be that he doesn't have enough Republicans in here to support to get to 53, which is kind of the critical point. That would look bad on the Republicans themselves, potentially muddying the water in the midterms, or what is the payday here?
Well, I think the payday there for Democrats would be you had bipartisan opposition to the bill. This wasn't a Democratic issue. So I think, to me, that's a political win for Democrats to go out. Yeah, we voted against it, but so did a bunch of Republicans.
Exactly. Listen, if Clarity failure happens, what does that mean for Hyperliquid in general?
Yep. The bill itself is a spot market bill. What it's traded on Hyperliquid are mainly derivatives. They're perpetual futures. Right. So the bill, in terms of having a tangible nexus to it, it's not as significant as it would be if Hyperliquid was primarily engaged in spot market activity. So that said, crypto native, I mean, there is a hype token. I think the bill would provide a sort of robust framework for consumers to invest in all sorts of crypto assets. So that said, I'd say a rising tide raises all boats. So I think like kind of big picture, yes, good for everyone, crypto related for sure. But for Hyperliquid specific, just given the bill's spot and not derivative, nothing overtly specific there.
I want to go to the lightning round here, because this is going to get into more detail on some of these. And we do these from quite a bit, guys. I know you guys love them in the comments, but I want to lead off with this one right here, Adam. And it's crypto industry would have gotten exactly the same thing they had they not donated to the Trump campaign. We'd be right where we are now.
I think that's probably a no. I think a lot of influence works in non-linear and often organic ways, and the access that is provided on the political side often translates to discussions on the policy side. So I'd say no.
Okay. I'm going to go with no, but for a different reason. I'm going to say, had we not voted or put money into the Trump campaign, it might have actually spun this in a completely different frame altogether, away from any of the bad doing, those kind of things, and supporting the Democrats maybe even in their efforts to reduce bad behavior in crypto. Because listen, that's one I think everybody out there that's watching our show wants. If Lummis adds 400 more pages to Clarity, then most likely the status quo is better. If we get another 400, I mean, we have a 1,000-page thing now. Who God knows what would be in that thing at that point.
Regrettably, I got to agree. I think when bills start to become either Christmas trees to buy off specific constituencies, it's usually a bad sign.
Worthless.
I think it's a hefty bill as it is in a lot of different sections. So I think the current length is probably as much as we want to go here. It's very complicated. This is going to take years of rulemaking to do.
Yeah, these bureaucrats are going to have to, and God knows what they're going to decipher out of this as well to understand what Congress really meant. With this.
Exactly.
So I totally agree. What sticking point negatively affected Clarity odds more? Do you think it was the rollover on the stablecoin issue with the banks from Genius, or was it the ethics theater?
Both pretty critical. The ethics sounds like the obvious answer here. I'm going to go with the stablecoin fight.
I agree.
For the following reason. It ran almost 6 months off the clock.
Too long.
Too long. Like this thing, like you said, your point about the banks was spot on. Like this basically delayed, and now we're in August, right before the midterms, where it's the political season, and we're kind of out of space here. So
if Republicans could get 6 Dems to vote for the NDAA, then why couldn't we get easily 10 Dems for Clarity? I mean, because that to me was a much harder thing to do than what this might be.
I mean, it's a great question. I have to come back to the fact that we're just so close to the midterms right now, and the ethics issue is just heating up. So I'm gonna go with disagree.
All right, I got you with that one as well. Okay, in the same camp on that. If Thune fails to put Clarity up for a vote, it is because he has independently decided to do so. Back to your point, he may decide to do that because he doesn't feel like he's got the horses in the Republican camp.
I'm going to say yes. I think it is a combination of floor time. I mean, they have Todd Blanche nom. They have the CR. They may have another noms package. They may have Iran sanctions this week. It's only Monday, and that's all to do this week. And plus, if you're going to lose 6 or 7 Republicans, I think he could independently do the math.
Okay. All right, so let's play this out for a second. Thune is the guy here that's kind of in charge of getting this done, right? But yet you've had all of this pressure from one industry, being the banks, that have done all this pre-damage work overall. So wouldn't he be able to easily push back into the banks as the bad guys here instead of the Republicans as I don't have enough here? It kind of makes me rethink this, to think maybe he would be falling. If it wouldn't be him, it would be the banks.
You know, I think it's a very good question. To me, the politics of the banking industry, and I did used to work at Citigroup when I came off the Hill. It is not just the GSIBs. These community banks have a lot of power and a lot of visibility in states like South Dakota, where he is from. Members of Congress are more likely to know personally people in the community bank world. So we often think JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, for sure, important. But when you go back home to these states that don't have the GSIBs, these community banks carry a lot of weight. A lot of weight. And there's actually hundreds of people working probably in the town they live in the banking industry, who view this as a threat. So I think it's a little different calculus for them here. So I think going back against the banks is a risky proposition for any member, would be my view.
Do you think the industry needs to release kind of an autopsy on this whole situation and examine what really, I think everybody knows what went wrong and why. What do you think?
I think they do. I don't know if the industry can do it. I don't know if we can do it ourselves, and I expect there to be many postmortems on this from a lot of smart people. It really will be an assessment of how the industry chose to play politics in Washington, D.C. In a time of Trump. It is a challenging landscape to be a political operator in this city. It seems very clear how do you get from point A to B, but it's not. So I look forward to a postmortem one way or the other here.
Crypto industry should pause all political funding for midterms and publicly make it a big deal overall. What do you think?
You know, as much as I'd like to agree, I think the reality is if you don't have money on the table, you don't have high level access. So I would say disagree. The take your ball and go home mentality, as appealing as it may be, typically doesn't work in the city where most of the real business gets done after hours at dinners, and those dinners are usually political events.
So you had the Bernie interview. I'm sure you saw this one. It's proof that crypto, and I think when you look at how crypto's framework has been painted to some Congress people out there, crypto never spoke or made any compelling arguments to the progressives. Do you think that's the case?
I think it's mostly right. I worked for a progressive Democrat for 17 years. Was a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I think for the most part, the industry has ignored progressives and not wanted to go in to see them, or maybe some of them wouldn't have wanted to speak to industry. There is a very compelling argument for progressives on crypto, and really was, on the Occupy Wall Street movement after the financial crisis in 7 and 8. Blockchain-based systems were seen as a way to give power back to the people in the form of peer-to-peer transactions that don't go through kind of these monopolistic, middlemen players who can also block access. So I think there is a very good progressive argument to be made, but I think for the most part, the cake seemed baked pretty early on. FTX, Facebook, all of that, got us to the point we are today.
Our crypto industry, Kalshi and Kalshi have successfully found a way to be as nearly as toxic as AIPAC.
You're putting me on the spot here, Paul. AIPAC is obviously, as you know, extremely toxic within progressive democratic circles. I would say it's not. I would say it is not as toxic as AIPAC. I'd say AIPAC is up here, and with the Peggy Flanagan ad coming out, I'd say that's the first I've really seen it at the national stage. You saw some talk about it in the Brad Sherman race out in California, but it's more the exception rather than the rule, where I think AIPAC is the rule now. So I'd say false.
I'm going to put you on a light false.
Okay.
A light false, because I think we found a way to be very toxic. Crypto industry should position itself as a soft solution against evil. And that would look at government surveillance, data centers. I mean, these seem to be the two areas that have, I don't know if you saw that recent poll. It was data centers, government surveillance, and crypto in terms of bad sentiment. So, you know, what do you think? Versus the banks, maybe spin away from the banks.
Spin away from the banks. I think on government surveillance is an interesting one, because there are privacy enhancing solutions that are blockchain based that I think could resonate. It requires a lot of work, and it really takes you away from crypto and pushes you into blockchain technology, where you don't have as many of the moneyed political interests.
Exactly.
There's not, So I think. I
you have
probably
to go
disagree.
the crypto route. Okay, you have to go the crypto route to be able to fund the blockchain efforts that really kind of protect for the surveillance issue. Okay,
exactly.
I would agree with that. We should stop talking about Clarity starting today. It's over. Stop hyping, or no? You think it's still a chance?
I still think there's a chance, but I mean, to your earlier point, and I think what Chris Giancarlo said, I think we have put so much into this as an industry, that if it fails, it feels like we lost. When that may not be the case. Yes, we may have lost this battle, but the current status quo, given the Trump administration and the agencies and what they can do, it's not black and white. I think there's a lot of gray in there. So I'll go with no. I still think there's a chance. It's getting smaller day by day here.
Yeah. I am now finally on the other side, that if it may be too valuable as a midterm tool for it to be used or actually get through. Just used as a midterm tool of not making it to the floor or going to the floor and failing, or the pushback alone of the stall in itself, all giving many of the politicians, because as we mentioned earlier, this has become extremely political. If Clarity failing is already priced in, then why should we stop talking about it if it's already priced in?
I mean, there's a lot of fatigue all around here, to the point of the previous question. Right now, I think we're talking about it because we're really at that penultimate moment here of, is this thing going to happen or not? I think it would be good for everyone if we did stop talking about it a little bit, or at least brought down the hype on it, and maybe started talking about, a path forward without it. Maybe we're not there yet, just because we are such in the moment. But next week, the week after, I think we have to move there pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's the key. Next week, guys, be watching some videos, because we're going to be talking about tokens that should be winning post Clarity. of non-passage. Vote out any politician who championed banning stablecoin yields, even if they voted in favor of the crypto bills. What do you think?
I mean, I would disagree. I mean, I would not want to say any one member should be solely judged by one vote here. I think there's a larger body of work. Certainly, as someone in the industry, I would tend to agree there. But you could argue there's quote unquote corruption on both sides here. I don't think that's the case, but there's definitely vested interests, and when it comes down to it, politicians want to win their next reelection.
Yeah.
And those that have a strong bank nexus, that's it.
Yep. It is that I will be the political incorrect one here. And I will definitely vote out any of my congressmen or lawmakers that voted against the American people when it comes to yields, because that to me was the easy slam dunk to just help any American in any walk of life. That was an easy win for our lawmakers. I just felt it was such an easy thing to do. If clarity fails, Trump will inevitably blame Democrats instead of banks and hurt the future chances of passage. Go after the Dems or the banks?
Oh, I think he'll go after the Dems, clearly. Okay. I think that's really the game here. I think, again, we're in the political season. So I think he definitely will. Yeah, anytime you dig in further politically on, the blame game here, it does make it harder for that side to come back and be supportive. So, I agree. I mean,
that concerns me too, because to your point, it makes it harder for that side to eventually come back. And if that never happens, then you would see clarity if it doesn't go through this fall, it would possibly not make it until the next presidency is in. And even then, it may be a situation of so much turmoil in flux because of all the changes that have happened over this past 4 years. So who knows? Hyperliquid is going to benefit from more AI IPO season without clarity passing.
I'm gonna go with I don't think we have direct interest tied to clarity. I think it is that rising tide raises all boats in the kind of crypto nexus. Hyperliquid, currently is not onshore in the U.S., so I think it's a little bit of a NA.
Okay, yeah, not answerable. Okay. If clarity fails, Binance breathes a sigh of relief.
One could make the case that they could benefit from some of the provisions in clarity regarding exchange regulation, but I'd probably say more true than false there.
Yeah, I think I said passes. I meant if clarity fails for our audio listeners. If clarity fails, Binance would breathe a sigh of relief, and I would say yes. All right, for crypto's sake, Elon should never mention or touch crypto again.
He's done a lot.
I know he's done a lot, but come on.
I would tend to agree on this, but he has brought it in a way to a much broader retail audience than probably would have been possible. Now, you could make the case that that's not the right way to do it, but I'll tend to go with you here on agree.
Yeah, it's a little edgy, And, just if he had never gotten into Doge, the department, it might have been a different world altogether. That in itself may have, if he had been pro-crypto, he may have been the one, true champion of the industry instead of becoming the villain. So, plot twist, crypto skyrockets after clarity fails, just like Netflix did after it lost the Warner Brothers bid because of uncertainty. Think about that. Everybody's just like, they don't know which way to go. I don't know if it's going up, if I should put money in. What do you think?
It's a good point. If we have some form of resolution, there will be clarity here, like good or bad, and clarity generally is helpful. And then we would know it would be a agency-driven rulemaking process. I think it's possible.
I think we should just do a video that simply says, if we fail, we have clarity. We have clarity. Now we know what the situation is. The rest of the industry can deal with it. And now we are going to wait for what's going to come out of the rulemaking out of the SEC and the CFTC and begin the businesses accordingly with those rules that are set forth by our government bureaucrats.
Yep. Love it.
The Congress. So anyway, Adam Minehardt coming in from Hyperliquid. Thank you so much, Adam. It's always fun doing a banter with you. We appreciate it.
Love it, Paul. Thanks so much for having me on.
If If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.